Dance moms might be on hiatus, but dozens of backstage secrets have yet to be spilled. Most of us thought that competitive dancing couldn't get any more cutthroat, but our opinions changed once we were introduced to Abby Lee Miller. Watch until the end to find out the real reason why Chloe left the show in season 4.
No, Abby! It was awesome!
Pyramid, the ultimate confidence crusher. Abby Lee Miller has her own very special way of motivating her dancers, but some might say that her methods are a little old-fashioned. By now, you're probably all aware of Abby's famous pyramid scheme and how it ranks her dancers from best to worst. If there's one Dance Moms member who knows a little thing about coming in last place, it's Chloe Lukasiak. Despite being a super talented dancer, Chloe found herself at the very bottom of the pyramid week after week, which totally took a toll on her self-esteem. But just when we thought that pyramid day couldn't get any worse, it does, and by a landslide. While the pyramid might have taken about 2 minutes of on-air time, filming these sessions usually took about 3 full hours. Chloe took to YouTube to confess how humiliating and traumatizing these sessions used to be. Funny enough, Abby didn't start using this method until the reality TV was confirmed. So basically, the girls had to sit through 3 hours of intense criticism every single week to spruce up the program's views. Stand tall or face the consequences. It's no secret that Abby is a tyrant when it comes to composure, which is why many of her students felt uneasy around her. While it's only normal for a dance teacher to want her own children to have excellent posture while on stage, Abby never let the girls let their guards down, especially not during pyramid. A little known fact is that Abby bullied her students into standing tall when they were in her presence. Chloe went in depth about how Abby used to yell at them for standing with their hands in front of their bodies. In fact, she was only happy when their backs were straight and their hands were neatly placed behind them. This was especially obvious during pyramid scenes, and since it was revealed that it took extremely long to film those scenes, the girls got incredibly restless. Abby's not one to use censored language, which is why she'd tell her students that they looked like they'd wet themselves every time their feet weren't facing the right angles and their hands were fixed in front of their midriffs. Knowing this, it makes sense that the girls felt extremely stressed out whenever their dancing teacher opened her mouth. Days off didn't exist. Being a Dance Moms member might seem like a fun experience from the sidelines, but many of the dancers confirmed that they had very little time to be children. Most of the girls were young kids when they joined Abby's dancing team, and their weekly schedules allowed little downtime. According to Chloe, days off basically didn't exist, which wasn't ideal for the shaping of a young mind. In fact, some people might say that their schedules were borderline illegal. Missing rehearsals wasn't an option, and neither was cutting school. So many of the girls struggled to juggle jam-packed schedules that could burn out the average adult. So while a typical Dance Moms episode seemed to follow the girls from rehearsal to competition, their weekly routines were a lot more strenuous than we were led to believe. According to Chloe, just thinking about her old schedule causes her to clam up with stress.
She still has hopes that Bryn will replace Maddie when Maddie moves on.
The white van syndrome. When you see a big white van approaching you, the first thing you think about is stranger danger, right? Well, when the girls on Dance Moms see one, their mind automatically jumps to their go-to transportation vehicle. Although a 15-passenger van is never showcased on the show, the girls were made to drive from competition to competition in this getup. You would think that the girls would have a more luxurious ride, but the series chose to leave this rundown van out of the show to maintain appearances. Instead of tapping into their budget and getting the stars a suitable ride, they were made to drive around Los Angeles in what looked like a kidnapping mobile. Although it's been over a year since the girls were made to drive around in one of these vans, Chloe says that seeing one of these is enough to put her in an anxiety-driven state. Their weight was monitored. Finding out that the girls were made to sign a contract upon agreeing to star on Dance Moms isn't exactly life-changing. However, what the contract highlighted is. There are many reasons why Chloe chose to leave the show at the end of season 4, but most of her issues with Abby started when she and her mother refused to sign the contract. Since Chloe was a beloved member of the group, kicking her out of the show was not an option. But that never stopped Abby from kicking Chloe out of her studio. The dancer was only 12 years old at the time, but she knew that signing a contract that forced her to monitor her weight was super unhealthy. While being forbidden to change her hair or get facial piercings wasn't that much to ask for, not gaining weight was. According to the Dance Moms star, the contract forbade any of the girls from gaining over 5 pounds. So instead of signing her way into an eating disorder, Chloe chose to stick to her morals. They had no time to practice. The reality TV show's immediate success caused the girls' schedule to take a huge hit. Thursdays were reserved for learning their solos and practicing for upcoming shows, but things didn't always go according to plan. While most dancers take up to 6 months to perfect their solos in time for competitions, the girls were made to master their performances in one single day. In fact, Sometimes they only had about half an hour to learn their routines before hitting the road. Knowing this just confirms what we already knew. These girls are super talented. And if having one single day wasn't bad enough, there were times when the dancers had to learn their routines while on their way to competitions. But in order to make their solos look flawless, they were made to film their performances twice, once for the judges and once more for cameras. We can't even begin to imagine how stressful that must be for them. But suddenly, their hissy fits and tears make perfect sense. Sticks and stones. We're so used to hearing bad things about Abby that many of us believe her to be the devil reincarnated. However, according to Chloe, Kalani, and Kendall, Abby actually helped them become the people they are today. You would never expect these words to come out of their mouths, but hey, they said it, not us. During an interview with Studio 10, the girls came clean about how Abby's tough love and criticism helped them become better dancers in the long run. Sure, her methods might have been crude, so much so that the girls' mothers threatened to pull their daughters out of the show on more than one occasion. But despite all the tears and anxiety Abby flung their way, her students love and appreciate everything she's done for them. Now that's pretty shocking, right? Especially since many of her students have cut all contact with their old dance teacher.
Or will it be the grifters? Sneaky.
Funds were more than a little low. You would think that every single Dance Moms member made a boatload of cash from the get-go, but this would be false. According to Christy, the first few seasons were all about the girls and seldom about money. In fact, the show's budget was so low that the moms barely made $600 throughout the first season. And worst of all, the children didn't even make a penny. While this might have changed once funds started rolling in, paychecks were split between cast members for the first few seasons. For this reason, both moms and daughters were made to design and create their costumes for the majority of the series. So basically, those who weren't nimble with a needle and thread plunged into the craft overnight. More than that, the girls were also responsible for doing their own makeup. While there were times when their hair and makeup were done professionally, this was rare. So before long, the Dance Moms crew became naturals at doing it yourself. From documentary to reality TV show, it's old news that the dancing industry is extremely competitive and merciless. Knowing this, Lifetime chose to direct their energy to the industry, choosing to film a 6-week documentary that would follow Abby and her dancers. Nia practically begged her parents to join the production, but they refused to let her audition. But before long, the dancer's persistent nature prevailed, and she went in for an interview. Despite being convinced that they were too boring to make the cut, Holly soon found out that she and her daughter were chosen for the special. But once the cameras came in and started capturing livid fights between the dancers' parents, Lifetime saw Abby's studio as a golden opportunity. And sooner than later, the documentary was scrapped and producers opted for a reality TV series. The fights weren't scripted. It goes without saying that many reality TV shows are scripted, and although Dance Moms isn't completely innocent of this, most of the show's drama was 100% real. This is especially true when concerning Abby and her students' mothers. Since Abby is a wild card who won't hesitate to insult her dancers, it's only normal that the girls' mothers jump in to defend their daughters. According to Nia, the network would never have picked up the show if it weren't for the intense drama that went down in every single episode. So while some scenes might have been scripted, the fights were completely authentic. One tutor to rule them all. Being a full-time dancer and a part-time teenager is no cup of tea, which is why most of the girls had to resort to being homeschooled. Nia revealed that to get their grades where they needed to be, the crew had to rent a doctor's office across the street where the girls could receive their lessons. Since the girls' education wasn't interesting enough to make the director's cut, they had to hire a tutor to teach them what they needed to know whenever they had time. So for about 7 years, the little dancers shared a teacher who taught them various subjects. Funny enough, many of the girls weren't in the same grade, which made their educational needs different. The green-eyed Abby. Abby's personal success took off long before Dance Moms was ever on the map, which is why we didn't expect her to be greedy when it came to money. After all her students' parents paid a handsome amount of cash for their daughters to be taught by her. So imagine everyone's big surprise when Abby wanted her students to pay her 10% of their Dance Moms revenue. This infuriated many of the mothers, especially since they were hardly making any money at the beginning of the show. Despite making more than everyone else, Abby wanted a cut of everyone's profits, and she was determined to make them sign 10% of their earnings away. But when it came to Chloe and Christy, they refused to give in to her demands.
Yell, I get it out, it's over.
Has anyone seen Abby? Abby might be the star of the show, but she sure didn't put in as much effort into the program as we were led to believe. While every episode of Dance Moms showcased Abby through and through, the truth of the matter is that Abby was hardly ever in the studio. While we're sure that she had her reasons, the dance teacher wasn't exactly easy to get a hold of. Jill, Kira, and Christy made it clear that Abby was basically a ghost when it came to filming the show. However, the show's editors found clever ways to make it look like she spent days in the studio without ever leaving. This is news for many of us, especially since Abby is the show's pride and joy. According to Jill, the crew sometimes had to wait hours for Abby to make an appearance. But hey, Abby's a busy lady. Chloe's condition. Although many dancers are forced to face heavy criticism, it's safe to say that their appearance should be left out of the equation. But when it comes to Abby's teaching methods, we all know that she likes to take things to a whole new level. Chloe was never Abby's favorite student, but that doesn't mean that she deserves to be made fun of for something she can't control. As many of you know, Chloe has silent sinus syndrome, which causes one of her eyes to be smaller than the other. Chloe received a lot of heat on the internet and had to cope with people telling her that she had a lazy eye and that she was ugly, but she didn't let it get to her head. However, when Abby made fun of her eyes during a temper tantrum, her self-esteem took a major hit. So the real reason behind Chloe leaving Dance Moms is that Abby made fun of her appearance, making her feel like no 12-year-old should ever. So there you have it, guys. The biggest Dance Mom secrets brought to you by the cast itself. Before you go, make sure to let us know who your favorite Dance Moms member is. And that's a wrap. Make sure to hit that subscribe button to be the first in line to watch all of our newest videos. Thanks for watching, and see you next time on The Things.